Hello, everybody. So my name is Philip Brey. I am coordinator of the SIENNA project. I am a professor in ethics at the University of Twente. And I want to tell you a bit about our SIENNA project and how it is focused on developing ethical guidelines for artificial intelligence. So I'm going to talk about our approach for the development of ethical guidelines. So, of course, ethical guidelines for AI have been developed already by various parties. We will be the first project, we feel, where we do so on the basis of a thorough academic approach and extensive stakeholder consultation. We actually take 3 years to do this. So we're going to tell you about our approach and then the ethical analysis we did so far in working towards these guidelines. So what is our approach? Well, first of all, we have as objectives to develop 3 sets of ethical guidelines. First of all, we want to develop policy guidelines for ethical AI, which will be similar to the guidelines that have been recently developed by the high-level expert group on AI, but we want to build on them, but provide more detail and rigor. Secondly, we want to develop specific professional guidelines for AI scientists and engineers working on the development of artificial intelligence systems and software. And third, we want to develop guidelines for AI for research ethics committees. Now we have an 8-step program taking us 2.5 years to complete. We're currently in the middle of this for the development of these guidelines, working with stakeholders on making this happen. First, we recently completed a socioeconomic impact assessment of and foresight analysis of possible future developments and impacts of artificial intelligence over the next 20 years. Because we believe we want to have as much information as possible on potential future developments of AI, not just looking at AI as it exists now, but what is likely or at least plausible to happen in the coming years, so that we're prepared for future developments. Secondly, we want to have a good analysis of the legal context of AI, looking at relevant international norms, legal orders, and national legislations, because we believe we shouldn't develop ethical guidelines and analysis in a vacuum. You want to consider legislation that's already out there or being developed. Third and fourth, we want to know what people think and feel about AI, because we want our guidelines to have to be as democratic as possible. For that reason, we want to do a public opinion survey as well as consult citizens in a panel of citizens, 5 panels actually in different EU countries. So this is something we actually recently completed, and we're now at the reporting stage where we will be writing reports to present our results to the world. We did a public opinion survey interviewing 11,000 people in 11 countries about their acceptance of artificial intelligence. How do they feel about AI, and what do they think? How do they think it should be developed and used and should not be developed and used? Then we did the same in more depth in 5 EU panels of citizens, where we got 50 people together, cross-section from the countries in which they were performed. And we asked citizens what they thought. Currently, we're also in the middle of an ethical analysis and evaluation of AI based on these previous steps, as well as on desk analysis and expert workshops. So we're inviting experts, especially in ethics, but also in the technologies themselves. We also do an extensive consultation of the existing academic literature on the ethical aspects of AI. Based on all that, we will this fall propose a new ethical framework for AI technology. And based on that, also look at existing ethical guidelines and codes to eventually develop ethical guidelines based on our ethical framework. And those ethical guidelines will be of three types, as mentioned before. First will be ethical policy guidelines, in which we will collaborate with Council of Europe, UNESCO, and other advisory and regulatory bodies, especially, of course, in the European Union and its member states. We will also develop operational guidelines for research ethics committees for AI. Here we will collaborate with EUREC, which is the European Association of Research Ethics Committees, as well as the National Research Ethics Committee Associations associated with EUREC. And third, we will develop a code of responsible conduct for AI and robotics researchers in collaboration with organizations like IEEE, ACM, Eurobotics, Council of European Professional Information Societies, and others. So, as said before, we want to really engage stakeholders in this process, hear what they have to say, both as experts and as bearers of interest in this matter. So we engage a lot of engineers, computer scientists, social scientists, ethicists. We have people involved from industry, government, civil society of all kinds to hear their voices and to come to joint ideas and plans, as well as over 11,000 citizens whom we interview and engage. So let me tell you something about our results so far. As I said, we're in the middle of this, but we have some results to share. First, we want to do an ethical analysis where we recognize not just general ethical issues in AI. I mean, there's all these guidance lists where it's about accountability, fairness, transparency, et cetera. We do that. But for us, that's only part of the work. We also want to look at ethical issues unique to particular AI systems and techniques. For example, we want to look at specific ethical issues with smart big data systems or effective computing or social robotics, etc. And we want to look at ethical issues unique to particular application areas like defense, like education, government, agriculture, etc., etc. So here we already think we distinguish ourselves from other projects in this way. If you look at the general ethical issues as a preliminary analysis, you can see that we look at ethical values or principles that we think are important for AI to adhere to. Many of those will probably look familiar to you. If you are familiar with the literature, for example, the high-level ethics group or the European group in ethics. So we're looking at autonomy and control, privacy, well-being, dual use, equality, responsibility, accountability, transparency, the issues of employment, democracy, as well as the general desirability of intelligent automation. So for each of these ethical issues, we do an extensive ethical analysis, looking at the existing literature, surveying arguments pro and con, and looking at implementation. Then we also look at ethical issues of AI systems and techniques, where we discover a lot of different types of systems and techniques. This is only a selection, what you see here. And for each of those, we look at specific ethical issues. For example, computer vision raises specific ethical issues that have to do with recognizing and tracking people. And the ethics of that are different again than the ethics for social robots, where it's about human-robot interaction and what can all go wrong in that to people's rights and well-being. And then third, we also look at ethical issues in application domains. These are the application domains that we're focusing on. So as you can imagine, the ethical issues with AI in defense raise, to an extent, different ethical issues than does the application of AI in healthcare or in media and entertainment. In one, for example, there's the threat to democracy with social media applications, for example. In defense, it's about killer robots and autonomous systems that can kill. So different ethical issues to be considered in those different domains. So I can go on and on, but I think I'm at the end of my time. As you can see, there's lots of ethical issues to be considered here, and we want to do so in a way that's going to be helpful for policymakers, developers, and practitioners and users in the field. Thank you very much.